Hello, my name is Richard Bloom and I'm a hypnotherapist. Today we're going to be talking about bereavement and the way in which hypnotherapy enables people to move on with their lives after suffering a bereavement. Many of the clients I see for other issues like smoking, drinking, gambling, weight loss are often connected with bereavement. And so I have to go through the bereavement process with them to grieve, to heal, to move on before they can stop their gambling, drinking, or putting on weight. Bereavement works in different parts of your life. For example, when you break up with a relationship that's been going on for many years and you've been connected with that person very deeply, and when it ends and that person is still well and moving around but they're no longer with you, there's still a tremendous sense of grief and bereavement that takes place. Bereavement is connected with loss of health. When people who are used to their health, they take it for granted, and then one day something happens. They have a stroke. Something happens when they lose their ability to do what they wish to do every day. And there's a tremendous grieving process they need to go through before they can start moving on with their lives from this new position. My job is to enable these people to heal and to move on. And I use hypnotherapy to enable them to do so. Weight loss. I had a client who couldn't lose weight. She was quite a large lady, and we found out the real reason why she needed to be large was because she had lost the twins. And hospitals at that time didn't bring babies to their mother after they've passed, and so there was no closure. She never got to see them. So I took her into a place, into a world where she went through the whole process of seeing them, holding them, and saying goodbye to them in her own time, taking as much time as she needed until she was able to start the process of grieving and moving forward. And then I took her through that as well. Everyone's grieving process is unique. My own father in 2010 experienced a loss of his sister. 6 months later, he was in hospital. Why? Because he had such a reaction to her loss that it literally closed down his kidneys. It closed down his kidneys because of the shock. And he called me in to sort him out, and I went there, and we found out that the grief was the root cause of why his kidneys had closed down. It took about 6 hours of work, but we got there in the end. He grieved, he went through the process, there was closure finally, and then his body started functioning again. Grieving is a very difficult thing for a lot of people. The normal grieving process takes between 3 to 7 years. And this process, for a lot of people, may never end. Queen Victoria was grieving for the rest of her life. It never ended for her. I have to be given permission by my clients if they want to move forward. Very often, they feel they need to suffer because this person has passed on, or because something has happened they need to grieve over. They need to suffer, and they don't really want to feel better. And so the job I am doing is going against what they really want. So before we start, we have to be sure that they're ready to move forward. And maybe we need to deal with the guilt or even moving forward before we can start healing, enabling them to be at peace and to no longer grieve. Everyone's grieving process is different. I myself went through a double grieving loss back in the early 90s, where I lost both my son and my wife. And I entered into a stage where I was feeling extremely low. And it was only through the help of a colleague hypnotherapist and also a lot of self-hypnosis that 9 months later I was able to emerge at peace and able to move on with my life. Again, there was a lot of feelings of guilt because I was moving on, and in some ways I never wanted to move on. But you have to make a choice. Every bereavement is unique. Therefore, my role with you is to work together and to move forward in the way you want to move forward, at the speed you want to move forward. It is often very difficult for the individual to move forward, and very often some big issues that have nothing to do with grieving are stopping the process in some way. Maybe there is unfinished business with the individual who passed away, or maybe they have anxieties and confidence issues that go way back before the bereavement, and the bereavement was just too overwhelming for them to even begin to cope with. All these things have to be taken into account. This is what we do at Richard Bloom Hypnotherapy. So I'm there for you, day after day, month after month, taking you through the process until you emerge at peace and ready to move on with your life.
There are several ways that you can get in touch with Richard Bloom. We're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram and Twitter. All you have to do is look for Richard Bloom Hypnotherapy. And if you happen to be watching on YouTube at the moment, check in the description box below. You'll find links and more information about us. And remember to visit rbhyp.com.